The Baltimore Ravens lose in heartbreaking fashion in the battle of the MVPs. We touch on it here next.
Situational football has yet again causing the Ravens to come up short.
And it's the same old Ravens with penalties, turnovers, and the whole 9 yards. We break it all down and instantly react coming up on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show.
Rise and shine. It's the Ravens Squad. Everything Baltimore Ravens every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of Charm City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Flock together and squad up. The Ravens Squad Show starts now.
Welcome to another episode of the Ravens Squad Show. Rise and shine indeed, as it is 1 a.m. Eastern time. So if you're a Ravens fan and you're here right now, that means you are truly an elite Ravens Squad Show subscriber. So I appreciate you guys so much for joining us. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. You can just move through life, or you can find the things that move you. It's your choice. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode, we're going to be talking about the Ravens falling short to the Buffalo Bills, a rematch of the divisional round. They fall short 41-40. Myself, Kevin Oestreicher, Kadri Ismail, we're going to touch about all of these facts, especially where the Ravens go from here. Let's start with our just overall reactions to this. And Kevin, I'll start with you, as Q had just dropped off a little bit. But the Ravens find a way to lose again. It feels like I'm almost numb to it at this point. I'm sure a lot of Ravens fans agree with you. What is your thoughts on this as far as the Ravens falling short yet again?
Yeah, I said it on the watch along that we did for the game. I said it on Mainstay Reaction Show. It's our job to come on here and talk, and I just have no words. I have no words for what we just watched. And the game felt so good for so much of it. Like, it felt like the defense was suffocating Josh Allen, and the Bills weren't really doing a good job at play calling, and the Ravens offense was kind of having their way with the Bills on defense. And then you feel it. You can feel the shift that happened over the remaining. And again, I know the big story is the Ravens had that 99.1% win percentage in this game, and they just absolutely faltered when it mattered most. And that, to me, is the most disappointing aspect of it all, where, like, we're here again. We're here again. And you can point to so many plays in this game. And look, I will never blame a game on one person, one player, one coach. It's a team effort. You win as a team and you lose as a team, and I truly believe in that. But whether it was Tyler Loop missing the extra point or kicking the ball out of bounds, whether it was Derrick Henry's fumble, whether it was some of the play calling that we saw from Todd Monken and Zach Orr, John Harbaugh moving away from, aggressive play calling after Lamar Jackson has pleaded with this team to be aggressive. And I know Lamar, there's context that it was cramping at the time of that 4th and 3. Jaire Alexander not letting Keon Coleman score, which is like the second thing you should learn in football. It's when you need to score and the team's about to kick a game-winning field goal on you with no time left, you got to give that ball back to the offense. And it just didn't happen. Penalties across the board. They had 7 in this game, and a lot of them coming in pretty big moments. I mean, there were rough plays from Daniel Falele, Roger Rosengarten on the offensive line. I could go on and on and on. We have a lot of time to talk about it here on the show, but I look, the Ravens have told us all offseason that they're planning to fix this, and it's going to be different, and they want to start fast, and they want to do this. And look, that's what you should say. That's what the goal should be. But like Kyle Hamilton said, they have to prove it, and they have to prove it to everybody. I mean, this is exactly this has been what we've been trying to deflect away from for the past 8 months. And this roster is going to be different. This team is going to be different. And they go out there and they do the exact same thing over again. And that, to me, is just, it's really deflating.
It's so interesting to me because the things that Kevin are saying, it looks like it's deja vu all over again. And I look at the way John Harbaugh runs his practices and how he, prides himself on being a tough football team, both physically and mentally. They go through what are called situational football moments in the practices, and they preach the details, and to watch it unfold. And it starts with coaching, It's not a scenario where it's just like, oh, just blame the players. It's easy to, yeah, the players have to take accountability. Don't get me wrong. But in pro football, more games are lost than won. And it is mind boggling to me how a team that prides itself on being so prepared can look so ill prepared for big moments and fail to capitalize on the momentum that they should have, and they continue to come up short in these clutch moments for themselves.
Yeah, the Ravens practice situational football. It's not like they just go out there, practice plays. They practice moments in the game. Oh, there's 13 seconds left on the clock. We're out of timeouts. We just got a first down, but we need to get the kicker on there. They practice for that. They practice for the 2-minute drill. They practice for the red zone. But it just feels like when it comes down to the game, it's just not working out for them. I don't know what it is, but there was a lot of stuff, speaking of coaching, that really it just felt like, again, same old Ravens. The Ravens kicked the field goal, could have called a timeout to kind of stop the clock and then kick the field goal, take more time out the clock so that at the end of the first half, Josh Allen doesn't have enough time to get that throw off, to get the field goal kick that ended up being part of the difference in this ball game. It just seems like time management has been really lacking for the Ravens recently. Kevin, would you agree with that notion, or is it just something that I'm just throwing out of there and it's not really accurate?
No, I think you're correct. And, I think time management can kind of be broken down into a lot of different categories, and whether that is just like managing a 2-minute drill, which again, we even saw the Ravens falter in that moment as well. I mean, that allowed the Bills, and I know it was a long second, but it hit like a millisecond before, and that allowed the Bills to again have the time necessary to kick 3 points at the end of the first half. And that again, like defense and the whole 9 yards there. But it just feels like this team gets in such a groove and such a rhythm, and then they become a completely different team. Like it's like where was the team that we saw for the first 3 quarters? Like, just keep doing that. There's no reason. Like, is it like a sportsmanship thing? They want to take it easy, say, oh, we don't want to disrespect these guys by putting 50. Go ahead and put 50 on them. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. You have to be able to win football games. And there are a lot of ways you can do it. One of the ways you don't do it is by abandoning who you are and abandoning what got you there. And that's what we saw was a lot of conservative run play calling from the offense. We saw them even on plays in the first half. They were moving horizontally at the line of scrimmage and not trying to pick up yards. And for Tyler Loop, and luckily Loop, I mean, look, he had a couple of rookie mistakes. I thought he had a really nice debut. He made a couple of really solid kicks, a lot of good performances in that game for Loop. He was able to kind of nullify, because it was what I'm referring to is Justice Hill had the fumble, set him back 2nd and 25. And then the Ravens, like, they run horizontally along the line of scrimmage for 2 plays. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Make the field goal easier for your rookie kicker. Now, Loop was a gamer and he made it anyway. But, like, it's those types of things. It's late in games, not playing so soft on defense, or finding ways to go out there and pick up a first down when you need it, or throwing the ball a little further beyond the sticks, or sending your guys beyond the sticks for a first down play. Like, those are the types of things that need to be better. And we didn't even see like a John Harbaugh weird challenge in this game, which has been another issue in itself. So yes, time management has been an issue for this team, and in a lot of different ways, it reared its ugly head again in this one.
I think if you look at the one that really kind of miffed me was right before the half, playing the prevent defense the way they were playing it. And this is a Ravens defense that said to themselves, hey, we're going to go out and draft guys. And did they, get Mike Green? Yep. Did they, obviously, you saw, some young players that were added to the roster, but you also saw the same old when it came to, a defensive front that was supposed to be much improved. We saw a little bit of Travis Jones, but we didn't see Travis Jones when we really needed to see him. We saw a little bit of Matabike. Sure, he had a sack, but we didn't really see the constant and consistent pressure. We saw Odafe Owe. No, we didn't see Odafe Owe. We saw him out on the field. We just didn't see him do much of anything other than almost. We've been seeing the almost for his entire career as a Baltimore Raven. Oh, he almost got him. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, nope, he didn't. Nope. Yeah. Oh, no. Cal Van Noy, as great as he's done, media wise, mother of pearl. Like, dude was still looking like he was doing some media and not really focusing in on his craft. Um, you can't necessarily put any necessary uh, blame, if you will, on Mike Green. I know he's a rookie, and what are we expecting from him? I think that's something that would be very unrealistic. Gosh, there were times where I thought Tavius Robinson, man, as much as I wanted him to look the part and be like Double J, there were just so many times where you're supposed to set the edge. Setting the edge doesn't mean like, well, I blocked the guy, or I stopped up. The guy still got outside of you, or big number 79 was able to just lay a paw on you and get you off track. Secondary wise or linebacker wise, from a linebacker aspect of things, you also saw where Roquan Smith, what looked like a real savvy, just get after the quarterback type of scenario now becomes where it just seems like a guard can just come up to him at that second level and just knock him, 8-9 yards, down the field, and him not being able to make any impact plays. You saw Buchanan made some plays, but he got lucky a couple times himself as a young player, as a rookie. The secondary, my God, man, Jaire Alexander, don't even think about making any kind of like, oh, I'm awesome type thing. What the heck? You must have been watching Brandon Stevens earlier today versus, when he was in his Jets uniform debut.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck? Oh my God. Like, woo. Okay, Kadri. So anyway, back to the analyzing of the game. It was shocking to me how ill prepared he was. It was shocking to me how, as much as I am a huge Kyle Hamilton fan, but like these key catches that these tight ends be making on him, it boggles my mind. And I think across the board, from players and the John Harbaugh lack of situational awareness, there's no way you're deserving of winning that game. Yep, you absolutely have to look at Derrick Henry fumbling the ball. As great as Derrick Henry played, this is pro football, and this is a game of inches, and we know that Derrick Henry is an amazing player. We know that Derrick Henry is going to be that guy that they're going to depend upon him even more, and all the things. But Derrick Henry, when you needed him the most, he unfortunately folded. But Roger Rosengarten, my God, man. I mean, got punked in the backfield twice. Like, if you just halfway block, Derrick Henry gets past the line of scrimmage, and you're not even talking about a fumble. But you just got bull rush right back into the backfield. Daniel Faalele gets bull rush right back into the backfield. And that's where, again, this team seems to, at the moment, the most critical of moments, when you need them to step up and perform at its greatest, they fail to do that. Rumor has it Josh Allen's still roaming free in Highmark Stadium. Oh, look, there's no pressure on him. He can just keep on going. I think the ushers are ready to go home. They're like, go, just let Josh do it. What the heck? We'll let him. Mother of pearl. Take it away from me before I say more.
I'm glad you said all you had to and more. That was very much what it is. It just seems like, I mean, we've been here before. This is a movie that it feels like a rerun of the same movie. Just we haven't watched it in 7 months, but it came back on tonight and it's been more of the same. But we will keep on going talking about this Ravens collapse. We'll touch more on what the offense did that was disappointing and maybe some players that we can single out for the disappointment. I know it's not just one player that caused this loss, but there are some players on this offense that I thought would play well or thought that they should play well, but they didn't play well and pretty much helped in the Ravens collapsing for this 41-40 loss. We'll touch on it here next on the Ravens Squad Show. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. With football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. It's quick, easy, and honestly my favorite way to follow along with football. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, we are back here with the Ravens Squad Show. Again, we're available twice a week, once in the middle of the week on Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and once after every single Ravens win, hopefully from now on, but definitely after every Ravens game. Kevin is also available every day on the Locked On Ravens podcast, giving you Ravens news daily. So get your Ravens fix here on the Locked On Ravens Network. Make sure you guys like and subscribe here if you're on YouTube, and give us 5 stars and comment if you are getting this on wherever you get your podcast. Again, I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in and being with us. 146 strong so far, and very surprising considering it is almost 1:30 in the morning on the East Coast. So definitely appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. But unfortunately, we're not talking a Ravens victory. We're talking a Ravens loss, and the Ravens definitely struggled. They put up 40 points on offense, so let's not, be too negative on the offense here. But there were players that, unfortunately, in my opinion, fell a bit short, and I think the first person we need to talk about, in my opinion, is Daniel Falele. He was the magnified guy that everyone was going to key in on, especially if Lamar was getting under the rest early. He was. Felt like Daniel Falele didn't play quite as well. Kevin, I'll start with you. I know we haven't looked at any film. This is right after the game. Give me your synopsis on the way, Kevin, that Daniel Falele played, or anyone else on the offense that you thought may have played a little poorly.
Well, played poorly. I mean, Q mentioned it. Roger Rosengarten got beat a couple of times. Obviously, we know Falele had a couple of rough plays early on. I didn't think it was a horrendous game for the offensive line. Obviously, they blocked well for Derrick Henry. I thought that Andrew Voorhees had a couple of plays where he sealed off very well, went over to the opposite side of the field and took out a guy, kind of sprung Derrick Henry a couple times. I think the most viral block of the night was Ronnie Stanley, who went over and just leveled. I think it was Christian Benford. I can't remember exactly who the defender was, but he got out in space and he sprung a guy. So the offensive line was not the biggest concern in the world to me. Like, obviously there were a few plays and a few moments where they certainly faltered, and you would like to see them do better in those moments. I mean, it's just the issue, and this is what we talked about all offseason, right? When they lost loud. Like, it was a loud loss, where whether it was Ed Oliver taking down Lamar Jackson or Ed Oliver taking down Derrick Henry in the backfield for a huge loss, like, those are just like, I didn't think we saw like a ton of negative play overall in like the grand scheme of the full 60 minutes from the O-line. But those plays that were negative had such a huge impact on the game, particularly obviously Falele and Rosengarten.
Yeah, I just think that Oliver, anytime you're going up against a guy that you have to be aware of, get either some help, be more aware, be more communicative with one another. But he made the decisive play for the Bills defense to create the necessary turnover. Am I missing something? But the Ravens did or did not have a turnover.
They had one.
Did they
did we force? No.
They didn't force any. That's what I'm saying.
No.
Correct. Yeah.
They
Right.
had
Yeah.
the fumble from Kyle Hamilton, but it went out of bounds.
Okay, so they didn't have it because that was awesome play.
Yeah.
But it just didn't result in them possessing the ball again.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I think, it's interesting because when you look at it and when you look at what, this Ravens ball club is saying they wanted to do, it was to create turnovers. It was to be more intentional and all the things. And, Zach Orr, this entire offseason, that's all he did was, showing 4 plays, a clip showing how they need to create turnovers, and they failed to do it. Situationally, you look at right before half, um, Marlon Humphrey's giving up, a play to the sideline where football 101, you defend the sideline because you want to keep the ball in bounds. And if they kept the ball in bounds, and yeah, there would have been no time left on the clock for them to kick that field goal. So I saw in the comments the one dude must have been just a big Jaire fan and has his jersey signed by him or something because it's like, oh, Jaire didn't do it. I'm like, bruh, what game were you watching? Homeboy gave up, critical plays and PIs that if you just play, then you don't, that's why we signed you. We signed you because of your skill level and your ability to cover and your ability to make big plays. I think clearly he was rusty from whatever time he missed from training camp up until game time. So yeah, that right there was unacceptable. At the same time, when you look at again the defensive front, there were times where you were just hoping and praying that they were somehow going to be able to get to Josh Allen and Josh Allen. I mean, I understand he's great, but so is Lamar Jackson. And they were getting to Lamar Jackson. Okay. Lamar Jackson shouldn't be under pressure if Josh Allen ain't under pressure. And I'm saying, yeah, both offensive lines in their minds, they know who they got in the backfield. Well, D line wise, that was just not good enough. That was a not good enough performance tonight.
Yeah, not at all. And I want to ask you about Zachary Orr because he is the defense coordinator for this unit. And even though they kind of came back late last season, still it didn't feel like this defense was the way it was when Mike McDonald was there. They didn't lose too many pieces on defense for them to falter this much. It just seems, and again, they're facing off against the MVP, Josh Allen, so some of this might not necessarily be right to say, but it just seems as though this defense is taking a step back since Zachary Orr took over. Are you still willing to blame it on the players, or do you think that Zachary Orr should be taking some of the blame here? As again, only week 1, plenty of games to go, but Zachary Orr really does have the pressure put on him to get things going. And as Ramsey said over here, it looks like some fans are saying that he might be in over his head with this. But what are your thoughts, Q?
Yeah, this is a tough one because I'm a huge Zach Orr guy. I think he definitely has the ear of his defense. I think that his schemes are sound and solid. I'm at a loss in a sense because Marlon Humphrey, I mean, he's a veteran and he should know situationally you don't give up the sideline right before half. You 2 tight ends going down the middle, obviously the opening drive for a touchdown. Kincaid, strong tight end, no question about it, but mother of pearl, you got to be able to be in that position and make that play. Those are plays that should have been had. Could Zach have done a better job scheming when it came to trying to create pressure? Yep, I think that's where he is going to look at himself and be disappointed because I just don't think that Josh Allen felt really like he couldn't just come to the line of scrimmage and be like, yeah, okay, this is what they're bringing. Here's a protection, and it felt like Brady the offensive coordinator for the Bills, it felt like he was ahead of Zach, and Zach could not get ahead of him in terms of just the play calling for his defense. And I think that is the frustrating part when you look at, the overall flow of this defense. They just never really got a good handle on things. And, yeah.
Yeah. I just, you could just tell when they lost the momentum. It just felt like they were doing so well. And then once the game got to like, okay, it'd be like a shock factor if they lost it. It did get a little conservative in that regard. I mean, Q, you mentioned it, and we both talked about how they played a little too soft towards the end of that half. And I wish they had been a little more aggressive in that situation, because we know great quarterbacks can make plays like that all the time. I mean, it's just little things like that. And I'm not going to sit here and just blame Zach Orr for every single thing that happened in that game. That's not fair, because execution wise, yeah, the pass rush didn't do well enough. I mean, Zach Orr didn't suit up in the game and, go out there and try to sack Josh Allen, although maybe he could, but he didn't. But we're just going to have to kind of, at this point, look at the team, and particularly this conversation, the defense as a whole, and just like, I think playing off the guys a little bit better. And I think understanding situationally that it's hard to blitz Josh Allen, and it's honestly the same thing with Lamar, because if you don't get pressure on these quarterbacks, star quarterbacks, they're going to dice you up. Like, they're just going to. If you don't get that immediate pressure and like, hey, we're going to make you roll out and make a throw, these guys are just going to sit back in the pocket and destroy you. Lamar and Josh did that tonight on multiple different spots. But when it comes to rushing with 4, the Ravens have had this problem for years, where it's been very inconsistent being able to generate pressure without blitzing. And that goes back to Don Martindale. It goes back to Mike McDonald at points. And it obviously goes back to Zach Orr too. And obviously, I know I don't want to play the card, and I'm not, but obviously there's been one consistent factor who is not a defensive coordinator. And to me, like I said this on the Instant Reaction show, John Harbaugh has a hand in how this game is called and how these games are played. He is the head coach for a reason. You know what a head coach does? He's the head guy. He has final call, final say. And while Todd Monken is calling plays, while Zach Orr is calling plays, and they certainly, like, I'm not excusing them, but John Harbaugh has his prints all over how this team is ran, how these games are called, how the philosophies are. And so that's why it truly is everybody. So, we can look at some of Zach Orr's play calling and be like, man, you really, like, he probably wants to have a couple of those back. But he's also running a defense within the confines of what he and John Harbaugh have discussed. And those are both he and John Harbaugh's ideas. And so that, to me, is like, everybody deserves a piece of the blame pie here if we're talking about this game, because there are so many moments you can point to, and it's just extremely unfortunate, because I think that both of the coordinators can get a little cute at times, and I see that in the chat actually. So yeah, it's just tough all the way around.
I agree.
Yeah, the chat knows. They know, like, it's a situation where we as Raven fans have been here before. The double-digit lead is sacred ground in the NFL. It's where you can not necessarily take your foot off the accelerator, but it's hard to come back from double-digit deficits. And the Ravens just allow teams to come back into the game and win games. That is where it gets frustrating as a fan base. And yes, situationally, where is the scheme that gets you the ball back? Where is the the play calling? Who are the players that will strategically do their job, that will cause the strip fumble, that will get the pressure, will get the tackle for loss? The Ravens defensive front just did not do their part. The linebackers did not do their part. The secondary did not do their part. Mother of pearl. like Tyler Loop. I think he's going to be a heck of a kicker. I think he's going to do his thing. But goodness gracious, like what a time to create a doink. Like that's just whoo. Then you look at a scenario where you know, again, offensive line, great, excellent, all that, but the one time we need you to hold up under pressure, you don't. And of course, the one time, you look at a Derrick Henry and what D Hen was supposed to do and all that, and what happens? Fumble. Uh, Marlon Humphrey. Marlon was like, "Hey, we gotta be like the Ravens defense of old." Well, you sure the heck ain't the Ravens 2000 defense.
Oh,
We might as well go ahead and start looking at another year, calendar year, and be like, "All right, here's what we got." Because yeah, this ain't it.
yeah. Chalk it up. It's. I think the 2000 comparison, you could put 2000. You could put that to bed. That's not what this team is. At least first game, Ray Lewis will roll over on the field if you saw this team give up 41 points to
Well, he
anybody.
did see him. He did see him up close
Oh,
and
yeah.
personal. Had the
He was
private
there.
jet, flew on up there and everything. Yeah.
I'm sure he had words for them after the game and at halftime. Wow, it's just insane. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll try and touch on some of the good in this game because the Ravens did put up 40 points. And up until it got to 40-25, we thought the Ravens had this in the bag. So not all negative, but we'll get to some of the positives here next on the Ravens Squad Show. All right. NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it is frustrating. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Gametime, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Okay, we are back here on the Ravens Squad Show. Unfortunately, the Ravens fall short. The Buffalo Bills 41-40 in Buffalo. A rematch of the divisional round ends up going about the same way. Unfortunate, as always, we are here to talk all things Ravens, but as much negative as we want to talk about here, let's shift and talk about the positive in this game. And I want to start with Lamar Jackson, Q, because Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen were going head to head. It looked like both of these gladiators were not going to miss. And at times, Lamar Jackson looked unflappable, even with sometimes when he was under duress. How would you analyze his performance today against the Bills?
Yeah, I thought for all that we're frustrated by this loss, Lamar Jackson played outstanding. Right from the beginning, you could see where recognizing you don't have an Isaiah Likely out there, recognizing that the game plan was to control the clock, run the ball. I thought that when he did throw it, he was slinging it and looking really poised with it. I loved how he turned into Superman when he needed to, and the scramble right when you thought he was about to be sacked, and then all of a sudden, he eludes the defenders and jets it up the field, and of course, Derrick Henry the next play goes ahead and goes in for a score. It was just peak Lamar Jackson. I think his ability to really just be in full command of the offense was very telling. I think that bigger picture wise for Lamar, you would probably just say that keep doing what you're doing. I would have to go back and look at the film for, to see some of the, one or two plays where you're like, I wish he would have had that throwback, but just eyeballing it. I think he played an amazing game. I am kind of surprised that what was his stats? It was only he threw it like 19 times, I believe it was.
Yeah, he didn't throw it often.
Yeah. I mean, and they didn't really need to. I mean, I think, outside of Derrick Henry's fumble, which, kind of skews everything, but they were running the ball like so effectively. And that's something that, I think for, Lamar and what he wanted to do with this game, he was doing his job. He was Lamar Jackson. It looked beautiful.
Yeah, I was impressed with Lamar. I mean, you could tell that he was poised. He was making the right decisions. I know he wasn't perfect. He had a couple of plays where he short-armed the ball on back-to-back to, I think it was Zay and Justice Hill. But, I mean, he did most everything that he could. I mean, I thought that, and look, everyone is going to talk about that DeAndre Hopkins catch being the catch. By the way, move over, Odell. DeAndre Hopkins is in town.
Yes,
but, look, that throw by Lamar was really in a place where only DeAndre could get it. It was a great throw. We saw the touch on the football. We saw him taking the right reads and just letting the game come to him. And that's something he's gotten really good at over the last couple of years, especially, since he's gotten back on the field and been fully healthy for the past 2 years, where he'll just sit back there. And again, he doesn't let pressure really, I guess the one play that I would classify as his biggest mistake was not throwing the ball away on that Ed Oliver play, but he was still in the box at that point. So what would it have really made a difference in the first place if he did or not? But he was just so poised throughout the game. That's the word I keep coming back to is poised. Then, he didn't really have a bunch of oh man, Lamar, why did you do that? It was maybe 1 or 2 or 3 at the max throughout the course of the game. I thought that he played really well. And that's what's unfortunate about the game is they ruined a game like that. And look, on the box score stat sheet, it's going to favor Josh Allen. And this is kind of what the Ravens are, right? They're a team that goes up by so much in a lot of these games where Lamar doesn't have to go and do what Josh Allen had to do and just throw, get the ball. And that works against him in arguments that, we're not having on this show tonight. But I thought that Lamar, and he was at 158.3 for a little while throughout the course of this game with that perfect passer rating. He ends up finishing at 144.4, which is still very high. But going 14-19 for 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. You got 6 or 70 and a touchdown. Just to read those stats off again. It's not going to wow anybody in the box score. But Lamar Jackson is the ultimate do you watch the game type quarterback. Because you can just tell how easy he makes it, not only for himself, but for his teammates, how easy he makes everything look. And I thought that he was phenomenal in this game.
I certainly agree with you. He looked really good. And credits to Josh Allen. I mean, we talked about how much Josh Allen probably didn't deserve the MVP last year, but he played lights out in this game. So definitely stepped up his game along with Lamar. Those two are going to be very good in the AFC this year. Another player that really had a great game, and Be More Chief Keep just brought him up, Zay Flowers, who looked magnificent. And I'm sure Eric DaCosta watched that game and said, oh boy, this guy is probably going to put a couple extra zeros on his contract with the way he's going to play this year, because him and Lamar seem to be locked in. Q, you being a receiver, what were your thoughts about how the way Zay played? Did he look like he was even better than last year? Because that's what it looked like on the screen, at least on Sunday night.
Well, remember last year's playoff game, he wasn't able to play because of the knee injury. I think he felt like his opportunity to help out his team was cut short because of him having to sit out and watching it in the luxury suites. So I think Zay came out, looked fresh, looked good, looked very much the explosive player that the Ravens felt he needed to be. I also saw in the comments how Christian Benford was tugging on Bateman's collar, and that wasn't a PI call. And I think that was one of the biggest misses of the night. He should have clearly had that flag thrown. Both officials, the side official as well as the back judge, they all missed that call. There's no way you're not calling it. And so I think from a bigger picture standpoint, the receivers, they came out and they were ready to make plays and really show out. But Zay Flowers, yeah, he had quite the day. I thought he was just poised, man, and looked explosive. A couple of those quick hitting type plays. The one he took to the house. I mean, you just see the acceleration, and it just made it look so easy. So good for him to kind of get himself off to the right track. I know his training camp looked that way, and sure enough, he took it right on into the season in the first game.
Zay was awesome, and certainly cemented for me that the Ravens would have beaten the Bills in the divisional round had he played. But it's a different conversation for another day. You can't live on what ifs, unfortunately, in sports. So you kind of got to move on from that. But look, I mean, there were a lot of plays in Q. You talked about it where, he found soft spots in the zone. He was able to, he and Lamar Jackson, you could see the chemistry those two put together. And, he's just such a 3-level receiver. Honestly, 4, if you want to talk about behind the line of scrimmage and him making plays that way too. I mean, and I thought that Todd Monken, we've come on here and Q, I've talked to you about this, and Sam, I've talked to you about it too, where sometimes Todd Monken can get too cute using Zay behind the line of scrimmage, and he kind of force feeds that. Todd Monken was having a field day tonight with using Zay on some of those plays and those short yardage screen situations. And I mean, look, it was effective for the most part. And, this to me, honestly, was very uncharacteristic. As good as Lamar was, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, it's just kind of how the game went. The Ravens ran the ball a ton. They only threw the ball again 19 times in the game total and had 29 carries. But Lamar Jackson really did not spread the ball around a lot in this game. It was really the Zay Flowers show and nobody else. The next closest person to Zay in targets was Rashod Bateman, who had 4. Then DeAndre Hopkins and Justice Hill each had 2, and Derrick Henry and Mark Andrews had 1 each. For context, they had 9. So it was 9-4, 2-2, 1-1. Very much the Zay Flowers show, and I thought that he took advantage. Something we talked about in Q, we talked about this a lot on the bonus episode we did for Saturday, was the fact that the Bills, the cornerback 2 position was very weak with, Trey White not being there.
Yeah.
And, we talked about how it was going to be Dorian Strong, who we saw had a couple of rookie moments on Zay throughout the game, or, a guy like Jamarcus Ingram or whoever they wanted to throw out there. And it just felt like Zay exploited that, but I wanted others to exploit it as well. I thought that Zay was a guy that took advantage of his matchups. Pretty surprised Mark didn't have a bigger game, and I'll have to look back and see if they kind of phased him out like they did in Kansas City and they just didn't have a likely to take advantage of it this time around. But that matchup with the corner 2 spot that we talked about, Q, was I don't know, felt like it wasn't as big as we had hoped it would be for the Ravens offense.
Yeah, I think part of what Todd Monken looks at is it's what the defense is doing and who's got the hot hand. Again, I look at Bateman. There was a couple times where he would have had opportunities to catch the ball. It just didn't go his way, or the official just was, foolish enough not to throw the flag. And so, as a receiver, I've been there where you're like, yeah, I felt like I ran a great route. I felt like I was open. I felt like, the ball should have went my way, and it just didn't. So I don't necessarily feel like it was all Zay and no one else was getting open, but I do appreciate the rhythm, the explosive plays that Zay was making. I mean, that was as impressive as it got. At the same time, yeah, a Justice Hill, who is Mr. Reliable as a wide receiver out of the backfield. That's one of the things that I greatly appreciate about him. He's made that, kind of shoestring catch before. We've seen him come up with, the big play, catching it low off the ground like that and getting upfield. But unfortunately, this time it hits the ground and he isn't able to come up with it. I thought Derrick Henry out of the backfield, when he was throwing the ball in the playoff round, he had, some drops. This time around, Derrick Henry was looking the part. I would have loved to have seen, Charlie Kolar be a little bit more involved, but I think for what they were doing was, hey, we're all about him and Jaire being the blockers, and that's where they're going to be. And they did a fine job. I thought there were some times where Mark Andrews, everybody was kind of amped and hyped to see him kind of have his redemption moment. The game just didn't bear out that way. Not that he had a bad game or anything. He had an amazing block to spring Lamar Jackson for his touchdown run in the red zone there. I saw a couple other times where, Derrick Henry, had some good runs, and it was a large part because of some of the blocking that Mark Andrews had as well. But I think overall, bigger picture wise, the receivers, the skill position guys were really solid and dependable for what the offense was called to do. They put up 40 points. Wish they would have put up 41, but that's a Tyler Loop thing. But I think bigger picture wise, putting up 40 points, like that's impressive. So it wasn't like they sat back and they were just, inept. And we're looking at a game where the Buffalo Bills defense had their way against the Baltimore Ravens offense. I don't see it that way.
Yeah, I am not going to knock the Ravens offense whatsoever. Obviously, the fumble notwithstanding from Derrick Henry, I think they played a very good football game. If you score 40 points, you're winning the majority of your football games. Just so happens that the other team scored 41, which is insane to think about. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about final thoughts and takeaways from the game and what we expect or look for as the Ravens move up to the Week 2 matchup against the Cleveland Browns. We'll touch on that next here on the Ravens Squad Show. Hey, what's going on, Locked On Ravens fans? Are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was going to be too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN. Offers vary by user and locations. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. All right, we are back here, the Raven Squad Show. Again, we are available every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time and after every Ravens game, particularly this one. You can also see the Locked On Ravens podcast with Kevin Oestreicher daily, Monday through Friday, and sometimes during the weekends, depending on the news. But there's a definite way to get your daily Ravens news shorts source from Kevin Oestreicher at Locked On Ravens podcast, so be sure to tune in. The Ravens, unfortunately, fall short, 41-40. We touched on how well the offense played and how poorly the defense played, but losing again. The Ravens lost last year in the AFC Championship to the Kansas City Chiefs. The following season, they played the Chiefs week 1. They lost in a heartbreaking fashion, and it felt like there was a bit of a letdown against the Raiders. Now the Ravens face off against the team that knocked them out in the playoffs in 2024, lose again in a heartbreaking fashion, and have a week 2 matchup against the Cleveland Browns coming up. Kevin, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts with this team mentally moving forward? Do you think they need to get past this? Do you think they can get past this? And how much more concerned are you about the Cleveland Browns game now than you were maybe 24 hours ago?
Well, I think it becomes much more of a must-win. Look, every game, I guess, is a must-win at the NFL level. But, clearly you don't want to have deja vu part 2 happen. And, my mind immediately goes to Las Vegas last season where the Ravens suffer a heartbreaking loss, albeit in different fashion, to the Chiefs. And then you go back home to play a team that you easily should beat. and everybody's penciling you in for a win. There's no way you go 0-2 and lose to that team, right? Well, we know how that went. Joe Flacco will be coming back to Baltimore. It'll be the biggest storyline of the week and the weekend. And that Browns team, they almost handed Cincinnati their first loss of the season if it wasn't for their kicker and a couple of other mishaps. And that's the week 1 Bengals, I guess. So and anybody can beat them if they really tried. But, I guess Cleveland just didn't try hard enough to do it. And the Bengals snuck out with a win. I mean, look, I think that they can bounce back from this. I think that they will bounce back from this. But I'll just stay consistent with what I've said for years here on this show. And, Locked On Ravens. And I've said it consistently since we started it up, the squad show here. September losses don't matter in September, but they certainly matter in December, in January, when you're fighting for playoff seeding. And we saw it happen last year where the Ravens dropped that game to the Raiders. They dropped that game to the Browns. And, we kind of look at how the season wrapped up, and the Bills won one more game than the Ravens, ultimately secured them the 2 seed and the Ravens a 3 seed. If the Ravens had won one of those games they were supposed to, they would have hosted the divisional round game in Baltimore. So the Bills will have the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Ravens now. They have a head start. And while I think that the Ravens are good enough to bounce back, of course, I think, again, that they just over the course of the rest of the season have to prove it to us, like Kyle Hamilton said, because this is a big season for them in a lot of different ways, with the roster being as good as it is, with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and everybody. This is a year that they're going to have to step up to the plate. Unfortunately, week 1 it left a pretty sour taste in everybody's mouth.
Interestingly enough, we're looking at Joe Flacco coming in, and as I was watching the 1:00 game against the Bengals, if you can't get to Joe Flacco, there is going to be holy hell to pay. I mean, bruh, EDC better go out there, get Jadeveon Clowney and whoever other pass rusher and figure it out quick, fast, in a hurry, because there is no way. I mean, he is no Josh Allen, and he is all about his arm strength, and he is going to throw you some passes. If you get him off his mark, he's going to be throwing you some passes that you should be able to turn into turnovers. That's the game plan. I want to see where, Zach Orr is just making life uncomfortable for Joe Flacco and company. And yeah, offensively, continue to do what you do. Just don't make the mistake as far as the fumbling. I know that's something that Derrick Henry, that's just not in his DNA. Unfortunately, it happened. And it happened at the worst time known to man. So that's kind of the nutty craziness of this mind-boggling loss. But that being said, you also look at, the Ravens defense, the situation of football, the lack thereof of it all when it comes to John Harbaugh and his coaching staff. You got to say, same thing, different day. And the different day is, okay, well, who's the common denominator? The common denominator is the head coach. So I'd be curious to see what he does to help his team and overcome this. You're absolutely right, Kevin. I mean, we're talking down the line. This is going to have playoff implications and seeding. Obviously, we know the Chargers, they took care of business and beat the
Chiefs,
Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, their division is going to be a crazy division. Obviously, we saw what happened with Las Vegas, took care of the Patriots. And so the AFC West, what does that look like? Denver, and how they're going to continue to fare. These are questions now that come into direct focus because of not being able to finish when you needed to.
I can't believe that you just said that the Ravens should probably get Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, we've been against the Clowney signing all the time. The loss is bad. When Q was like, we need to get
I've
Jadeveon
been waiting
Clowney.
for this moment.
I concede the flag has been waved and just saying I give up. We we can't wait for a Mike Green to mature and rely upon just strictly Mike Green. KBN just he I'm sure he's going to have some opportunities, but he just didn't look as quick and spry as he needed to. Um, as much as Adafe gained some muscle, maybe he needs to gain some fat, and then he could bounce off of guys because it just seems like he's there. He's all okay, maybe not. Mother of pearl, we got to figure something out because Tavius Robinson. I think maybe we need Jared Johnson to come in and tutelage him some more because there were just opportunities that he had that he just didn't take advantage of, and that's the disappointment of it all.
And to Q's point, very quickly, the Eagles were not good rushing the passer in Week 1 against the Cowboys, and the next day they went out there and signed Zadarius Smith.
Yep.
So, clearly there is already precedent set, and that's not even speculation, right? I mean, that's what happened, which is good. There is already an example of this happening, or maybe Q just says, "Hey, if I say the Ravens should sign Jadeveon Clowney, can I go to bed?" Is that if I finally say, "Can I go to bed?" I think that might be what's actually going on here. But regardless, We're rolling with Q wants Jadeveon Clowney, and we can speculate. Q was on board the speculation train now. I love it.
Let's go. I'm on the speculation train because I'm serious, man. The only way you're going to be able to get to Levi Stadium and have our road trip of road trips, it's all about whether or not you can get to the quarterback. Because right now I just don't see this team being a contender by giving up 41 points and your offense rolled by producing 40 points. I mean, that double digit into the fourth quarter, you need a finisher. Who's that finisher? I don't see this team having a finisher. That's what really bothers me.
Could have had Micah Parsons. There was a chance the Ravens could have got Micah Parsons.
Let's just go back through the history books. Let's just do it.
Just going to squeeze every bit of speculation out of Key before we close up the show. Hilarious.
I mean, come on. I would have now looking back on it. We could have given up Matabike.
Yeah.
Given up who else? We could have given up some coveted draft choices.
Travis Jones and 2 firsts. I think that would have been the package.
Travis Jones and 2 firsts. Throw in Broderick Washington too while you're at it. Mother of pearl.
All right, we'll settle for Jadeveon Clowney. I won't push it any further than that. But I appreciate everybody for joining the show. I know it is late, almost 2 a.m. So you guys, thank you so much for tuning in and sticking around. I think this is the most fans we've ever had on the show live. So that tells you something. So hopefully we guys see you again on Thursday at 7:30 as we get ready to talk about the Ravens and the Cleveland Browns home opener for the Baltimore Ravens. So for myself, Kevin, and Q, thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you on Thursday.